Happy 2019, y'all. We're back and we are ready to kick off the new year. Jim, how are you doing?
I am so fired up to be back. I had a nice rest. I had to call in a bunch of times, and I wrote every day for real money. Every day, multiple pieces. We're greeted with the market that is testing where we were yesterday, this time being driven by Apple. My take is let Apple come in. We said multiple times in these videos, please pre-announce, please pre-announce, please. I wanted them to pre-announce last year, not this year, because I knew they were going to miss the quarter. And they missed the quarter big, which is what we predicted. We predicted it would be China, because we think that China is a communist dictatorship, that you don't need to say don't buy Apple. What you need to say is I'm afraid to buy Apple. I'm afraid to buy Apple because the government's everywhere. I am tired of people misunderstanding the Chinese. It's a communist dictatorship. And I would be very fearful to buy Apple if I lived there, because the Communist Party controls everything and is all-seeing and all-knowing. It's the opposite of Jefferson, of Washington, of Madison, and yet somehow we seem to conflate their election, which is no different from the North Korean election or the old Soviet Union elections, with our elections. And I am here to enlighten people that the Communist Party didn't want you to buy Apple. They didn't have to say it, but you knew it.
And just so everyone knows,
you can't get that kind of decline. People are saying, oh, suddenly the phones are too expensive. I mean, are you kidding me? Now, if I were Tim Cook, whom I think is terrific, I don't think I would come out and say, listen, the Communist Party said not to buy, because then those who are still buying would then be worried. But let's understand each other. We have to start recognizing who the communist Chinese are. By the way, have you ever noticed someone who calls them communists?
I have not.
No
you
one
are?
They're communists. And that is a setting sun economic system that media people and people even on this floor seem to regard as rising. Communist Party doctrine has been on the decline ever since Stalin died. And we need history. They claim they have history on their side. They don't have history on their side. The only time they were ever in ascendance was when the capitalist voters took over. I think the capitalist voters come in again. I am not calling for regime change. I am calling for regime change of mind. I think we get it. I think they're paper tiger. I think their numbers are going down. I think they need us more than we need them. And if people keep acting as if they're kings and we're pawns, I question exactly how much homework they've done. It's an ill-advised position.
And we saw the factory numbers go down in Asia.
Well, yeah, what does that tell you? What does it tell you? It tells you that they are not able to sell as much product in Europe, which is weaker, and product in our country. I fully expect the market to be down big today because of Apple, but that I do not expect us to revisit the lows of the previous Monday, and that people should be ready to do some buying. We're doing a little action alerts buying. Because everything's down because of Apple, and that's not correct.
And just so everyone knows, Apple is Real Money stock of the day, so we'll have wall-to-wall coverage on Real Money.
Yes, and by the way, I've also tried to get them to do Bristol. Our team will do Bristol. I'm worried about that deal. I was worried about Bristol beforehand.
Why are you worried about the deal?
Well, because Frazier is so good at Merck. I've often, in my background with Merck, they're too humble, but I'm not. They're the winner.
And just so we can clarify, Bristol-Myers offered $74 billion.
Cash in stock. And here's my analysis of that. Celgene has made so many bad acquisitions. Bristol has made so many bad acquisitions. Maybe this is the one. I used to call Bristol-Myers because it was the gold standard. And then along came Merck. Merck has a better mousetrap, so Bristol has to do this. Celgene is his main drug is Revlimid. Revlimid is running out of patent protection, so they better come up with a new cancer franchise from Juno very quickly, and maybe they know more. Bristol does have a good science department. Bristol has been horrendous at communicating their story. They don't like to talk. That's a mistake. They think they know more than we do about what they should say. Obviously, their stock says they don't. They should come on. They should come on Mad Money. They should speak to me, and we'll suss it out and make sure that people don't get hurt.
Jim, you wrote a really nice real money column this morning about the winners of 2018 going into 2019. Now, you mentioned your first one was Red Hat and IBM. Can you talk about that deal?
Yeah, because what I was saying there is that Red Hat's acquisition by IBM hurt IBM very badly. And yet, and I think that that's become, in tech, the bellwether of why you can't buy another company. And that's why there's so many companies out there. There are so many companies that have cratered that if I were a Salesforce, if I were a VMware, Dell, which we're going to talk about Dell later this next week, if I were one of these companies, I would say, we're not going to do what IBM did. IBM, people feel they overpaid for Red Hat. They didn't if they get Jim Whitehurst, and I love Jim. But you have to understand that the point of that part of the piece was to say, we better get some deals. And then what happens? Voila, Bristol buys Celgene. Not the right industry, but it's interesting.
It is the first M&A acquisition of 2019 so far.
Oh, and it's a blockbuster. And maybe that's what we have to start thinking about. The only one we really had in the month of December was MindBody, a company I kind of like. You would think that the oils, that Chevron would buy Anadarko, one of our names. You would think that you would get ServiceNow buying a defeated company. Defeated company means down big. I think we see these deals. I think that stocks are down. Let me give you a classic example of who has to do a deal. Look at 3M. It's all the way down to 185. It's down 70 from its high. Don't they have to do something? It's that current portfolio is not strong enough. ITW. Current portfolio is not strong enough. These companies need to combine, not those two in general, but I'm just saying it's time for M&A, and I think that Bristol and Celgene are the things that people aren't thinking about. No, when you look at what's happening, I don't know a soul who thinks that 2019 is going to be a good year. Not a soul. Isn't that intriguing?
It is, and I've seen the same thing. So many people are calling for recessions, the stock market down.
Well, we had a crash. That's what we had a crash. Now we're going to retest the crash because that's what you do. Apple obviously is really bad, and I'm not making any excuses for that. So we have to be down. But you have to look away from Apple and see what holds up. Might be some opportunity. Church and Dwight, I mentioned that one. Interesting. Good performer in the fourth quarter.
Now, you also mentioned Starbucks in your real money column. Why Starbucks?
Well, it was one of the best performers, but Starbucks is, Kevin Johnson has turned the company around. The big issue in America was throughput. The big issue in China was delivery. Unless you think, if you watch Nike, if Nike comes down, then I would be worried about Starbucks. Nike is Chinese franchise, but Starbucks got a big buyback. Starbucks is making a battleship-like turn because it's so big. Kevin Johnson is doing great things. I went to the roastery and talked to him recently. I love the roastery. Let's watch Starbucks and Nike today to see whether America's really on the blacklist. If it's not, Starbucks is right. If you think it is, then buy McDonald's because they don't have that Chinese exposure.
Jim, there's so many more things that I want to talk to you about, but we're going to have to save it for our rundown. But we still get to talk, so don't worry.
All right.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Wall Street Journal article that was published yesterday about the college education.
Yep.
And we're also going to talk more about Apple over on our daily rundown on Action Alerts Plus.
A little Bristol.
Yeah, of course. We got to keep talking about it.
As it relates to Amgen.
Exactly. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Catherine Ross with TheStreet. We'll see you guys tomorrow.